Everyone remembers the hero, but sometimes it's the motorcycle that steals the entire movie. From roaring chase scenes to quiet moments of freedom, these bikes became icons on the big screen. Some were fast, some were cool, and some became legends far bigger than the films themselves. In this list, we're counting down the top 10 motorcycles from famous movies, machines that defined characters, shaped culture, and made audiences dream of the open road. Stick around, because the last bike on this list might just be the most recognized motorcycle in cinema history. Flying high at number 10, Bultaco Pursang, Easy Rider. Before the stars of Easy Rider, Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper, hit the road on their choppers, the film opened with a gritty little scene that many forget. That scene showed them riding off-road machines, and one of them was the legendary Bultaco Pursang. It wasn't the centerpiece of the movie, but for those who know bikes, spotting the Pursang was like finding a hidden treasure. The Pursang was a Spanish-built two-stroke dirt racer born for competition. It came with an air-cooled single-cylinder engine that made between 30 and 40 horsepower, depending on the model year. And it weighed barely 200 pounds. This meant it could fly over dirt tracks with a vicious power band that gave riders an almost uncontrollable rush. On screen, it gave Hopper and Fonda an authentic edge, showing them as free spirits even before they hit the open highway. Prices today? That's where the Pursang shines as a true collector's item. Back in the 60s, you could pick one up for under $1,000. Now, surviving examples of the Pursang fetch anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000, depending on condition and race history. Restored models go higher because dirt legends don't come cheap anymore. If you know you're going to enjoy this breakdown of movie icons, hit like right now and let me know in the comments which of these legendary machines you'd ride if given the chance. Don't just watch, join the conversation. And while the Pursang teased audiences with raw dirt power, it was the choppers later in the film that truly made cinematic history. And one of them, the one that Fonda himself rode, is probably the most iconic motorcycle ever built for film. Firing on all pistons at number 9. Harley-Davidson Panhead, Captain America, Easy Rider. Few motorcycles in cinematic history can claim the same legendary status as the Harley-Davidson Panhead Captain America from Easy Rider. The stretched-out chopper, dripping with chrome, with its tank painted in stars and stripes, became more than a bike, it became a symbol of American freedom. Built from a 1952 Harley Panhead, the Captain America chopper was heavily modified. It had extended front forks, high ape hanger bars, and a radically long wheelbase. Its look screamed outlaw, built for the open road. Underneath the wild style sat the reliable Panhead V-twin, pushing around 60 horsepower, enough to cruise effortlessly across the highways of the 60s. What most people don't know, the movie used 4 versions of the bike. 2 were Captain America's, and 2 were Billy Bikes, Dennis Hopper's ride. Tragically, only one survived filming, and it was later stolen from Dan Haggerty's shop and has never been found. That theft alone cemented the bike's mystique. Back in the day, a used Panhead could be had for a couple of $1,000s. Today, even a standard 1952 Panhead, not even a Captain America replica, can sell for $30,000 to $40,000. True screen-used choppers, if they ever resurface, would be priceless. Replicas now fetch $20,000 to $50,000 because everyone wants to own a piece of the American dream. But while Captain America represents the dream, other movie bikes went a very different direction. Not freedom, but raw speed and cinematic spectacle. And the one that came next is nothing short of an icon. Dropping power at number 8, Kawasaki Ninja H2, Fast and Furious 7. The Kawasaki Ninja H2 was not just a motorcycle, it was a statement of speed and power that looked like it had been ripped straight out of the future. So when it showed up in Furious 7, it was not just a bike, it was a character in its own right. The sleek bodywork, the aggressive stance, and the sound of that supercharged engine made it feel perfectly at home in a movie that was all about pushing machines past their limits. Underneath that cinematic shine The Ninja H2 was already legendary. It carried a 998 cubic centimeter inline 4 engine with a supercharger, delivering over 200 horsepower. This wasn't just raw speed, it was controlled chaos. The H2 could tear down the straight line like a jet fighter on 2 wheels, reaching speeds that felt more like science fiction than reality. Kawasaki didn't just build a motorcycle, they engineered a piece of technological art, and Hollywood knew it. In Furious 7, the H2 fit the franchise's over-the-top style perfectly. These movies weren't about subtlety, they were about spectacle, and the Ninja H2 was spectacle made metal. Its mirror-finished paint caught every light, its silhouette screamed futuristic predator, and the way it moved on screen made fans believe motorcycles could break every law of physics. For many riders watching in theaters, the H2 became the ultimate dream bike, the kind of machine you pin posters of on your wall and swear one day you'll own. And the thing is, the Ninja H2 was real. This wasn't just a CGI fantasy. The bike that thrilled audiences was sitting in Kawasaki showrooms, waiting for riders crazy enough to handle it. Sure, the price tag was high, and sure, it was far from practical, but that only added to the allure. Owning an H2 wasn't about commuting or saving gas. It was about declaring to the world that you craved something faster, louder, and bolder than anything else on the road. And speaking of cinematic legends, there's another bike that didn't just star in a movie, it helped define an entire era of action films. Locked and loaded at number 7. Kawasaki KH 250, Mad Max. Before Fury Road dazzled audiences with CGI sandstorms, the original Mad Max from 1979 was a gritty, low-budget Australian grindhouse flick. It didn't just give us Mel Gibson, it gave us a gallery of unforgettable machines. Among them was the Kawasaki KH 250, a compact 2-stroke screamer that, while not the star, carried its own weight in cinematic history. Technically, the KH 250 was a mid-70s 2-stroke triple, displacing 249 CCS and putting out roughly 28 horsepower. With a top speed just shy of 90 miles per hour, it wasn't built to dominate highways, but it was light, quick, and shrieked with that signature Blue Smoke soundtrack of the era. On screen, that wild sound became part of Mad Max's atmosphere, a world held together by noise, fumes, and violence. Back in the day, you could buy a new KH 250 for only a few $100s. Today, they're rarer finds, with surviving examples fetching $3,000 to $7,000 on the collector market, depending on originality and condition. While it never reached the cult status of Goose's KZ1000 or Toe Cutter's menacing Z1000, the KH 250 remains a fascinating footnote in the franchise's mechanical lineup. Cinematically, the KH 250 wasn't glamorous. It wasn't dripping with chrome or customized into a futuristic wasteland beast, but it was raw, practical, and real, and in a film built on grime and desperation, even the humble KH 250 became part of the legend. Crushing rivals at number 6, Triumph TR6 Trophy, The Great Escape. Few movies in history have been defined by a motorcycle the way The Great Escape was. The war film had tanks, planes, and POW camps, but it was one machine that stole the spotlight: the Triumph TR6 Trophy, a 650cc British twin cleverly disguised as a German military bike. Painted in olive drab, stripped of chrome, and fitted with mock Wehrmacht styling, it looked like a war trophy, but beneath the surface, it was pure triumph. The climax of the film gave birth to legend. Steve McQueen, as Captain Hiltz, roared across the countryside, enemy soldiers in pursuit. And then came the jump, the barbed wire leap that froze audiences in disbelief. Bud Ekins, McQueen's stunt double, made the actual airborne stunt, but McQueen rode the Triumph in most scenes, handling it with natural grit. When that motorcycle lifted off the ground, wheels spinning, the image became more than a stunt. It became freedom, it became rebellion, it became a cinema. The Triumph TR6 Trophy itself was not exotic. It was simple, rugged, and reliable. Yet on screen, it became immortal. Riders today still argue no other motorcycle stunt has captured that same raw electricity. The TR6 was the escape machine, a symbol of every rider's dream to outrun walls, chains, and limits. Decades later, the scene is studied, replayed, and remembered. The Triumph TR6 Trophy didn't just play a role in the movie, it defined it. And it remains, to this day, one of the most iconic motorcycles ever put to film. Claiming curves at number 5, Lambretta LI 150 Quadrophenia. If Easy Rider gave us the American chopper dream, Quadrophenia captured a very different scene, the MOD movement of Britain in the late 60s. At the center of it all was the Lambretta LI 150, a scooter that became far more than transportation. It became a symbol of style, class tension, and teenage rebellion. In Quadrophenia, Phil Daniels as Jimmy roars through London on his Lambretta, mirrors stacked high, lights blazing, parka flying in the wind. The LI 150 was powered by a 149cc two-stroke engine, producing just 5 horsepower. Barely enough to crack 50 miles per hour. But the point wasn't speed, it was style. Mods customized their Lambrettas with chrome, accessories, and flair, turning them into rolling fashion statements. The LI 150 was originally affordable and practical. In the late 60s, a new one cost only a few £100s. Today, surviving examples command serious respect. A fully restored model sells for $5,000 to $8,000, while pristine originals can touch $10,000 or more. And if it has film provenance, the value skyrockets, because these scooters are now rolling pieces of cultural history. Quadrophenia wasn't just a film, it was a time capsule. It captured the tension between mods and rockers, between scooters and motorcycles, between conformity and rebellion. The Lambretta LI 150 sat at the heart of that story, not as a background prop, but as an extension of Jimmy's identity. Unlike the towering Captain America chopper, the LI 150 was compact, buzzing, almost fragile, and yet it carried just as much cultural weight. For some, it wasn't just a scooter, it was freedom, escape, and belonging. And if scooters symbolized sharp suits and city lights, the next motorcycle icon would come from the future, stripped, brutal, and ready for survival. The torque monster at number 4, Ducati 996, Matrix Reloaded. When audiences watched The Matrix Reloaded in 2003, one scene burned itself into film history: the freeway chase. Cars flip, bullets fly, and then Trinity makes her escape on a gleaming Ducati 996. This wasn't just a chase, it was cinema at its most adrenaline-fueled, and the motorcycle was the centerpiece. The Ducati 996, launched in the late 90s, was a superbike legend. With its 996cc Desmoquattro 5 twin, it pushed around 112 horsepower and hit top speeds near 160 miles per hour. More than raw numbers, it had soul, sharp handling, thunderous sound, and aggressive Italian styling. It wasn't just fast, it was art on 2 wheels. In the film, Trinity doesn't just ride, she glides through impossible gaps, dodges SUVs, and defies gravity, making the Ducati feel like part of her character. Sleek, lethal, unstoppable. That one sequence cemented the 996's reputation as the ultimate cool machine. Back then, a new Ducati 996 cost around $14,000. Today, on the used market, depending on condition, you'll see prices from $8,000 to $15,000. But a screen-used stunt version? That's practically priceless. A collector's dream worth tens of thousands. The Ducati 996 wasn't built to be subtle. It was designed to demand attention. And in The Matrix Reloaded, it became as iconic as the black leather coats and green digital rain. Stick around, because the top 3 bikes on this list aren't just machines, they're pure cinematic myth. You'll recognize them instantly, but the backstories will surprise you. Subscribe now so you don't miss the big reveal. Claiming the 3rd spot on the podium, the Harley-Davidson Fat Boy, Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Few motorcycles have ever had a Hollywood entrance like the Harley-Davidson Fat Boy in Terminator 2, Judgment Day. The year was 1991. Arnold Schwarzenegger's T-800 steps into frame, takes the bike, and suddenly the world knew. This was the ultimate cyborg cruiser. The Fat Boy, introduced in 1990, carried a 1,340cc Evolution V-twin engine. It wasn't the fastest, pushing around 60 horsepower, but it had torque, sound, and that unmistakable Harley presence. Chrome-heavy solid-disc wheels, wide stance. This bike looked like a rolling tank, perfect for an unstoppable machine from the future. In the movie's iconic chase, the T-800 leaps the Fat Boy into the LA River Channel, shotgun in hand, blasting away at enemies. The combination of machine and man created one of the most memorable images in action history. From that day forward, the Fat Boy wasn't just a Harley, it was the Terminator bike. Back in the early 90s, a Fat Boy cost around $11,000. Today, used examples from that era can be found between $7,000 and $15,000. But again, screen-used versions? That's pure Hollywood treasure. One stunt bike sold for nearly $500,000 at auction. The Fat Boy represents American iron at its boldest. It wasn't about speed or agility. It was about presence, power, and legend. And if Arnold made the Fat Boy unforgettable, the next cinematic motorcycle would prove that sometimes rebellion comes painted in stars and stripes. The challenger right beneath the throne, number 2, Harley-Davidson Panhead, Pulp Fiction. When Quentin Tarantino gave the world Pulp Fiction, he delivered not just a film, but a cultural earthquake. Every scene dripped with attitude, every line etched itself into memory. And right in the middle of that chaos, sitting quiet but ready, was a motorcycle that carried as much attitude as any character on screen, the Harley-Davidson Panhead. But let's be clear, in Tarantino fashion, it wasn't even the bike's original owner who stole the spotlight. Remember the infamous "Zed's dead baby" scene? Bruce Willis as Butch Coolidge doesn't just walk out with his freedom, he walks out with someone else's Panhead. And in that moment, that motorcycle became the ultimate symbol of survival, revenge, and pure Tarantino cool. The Panhead itself was a machine of its time. First built in 1948, named after its unique pan-shaped rocker covers, this Harley carried the grit and thunder of American streets for decades. With its distinctive V-twin rumble, it wasn't sleek like a racer. It wasn't polished like a cafe toy. It was raw iron meant for people who wanted the road loud and unfiltered. By the 1990s, the Panhead had already earned its legend. Pulp Fiction only burned it deeper into pop culture. The choice of bike was genius. A shiny sports bike would have looked ridiculous in that grim, blood-soaked Los Angeles moment. But a Harley, battered and heavy, made perfect sense. Butch didn't just ride away, he rode off into Mythe, engine snarling, revenge paid, fate rewritten. That Panhead wasn't transportation, it was a statement. Today, Panheads fetch serious money. Restored classics can run $25,000 and up. Beat-up survivors? Still 10 grand or more. And yet, if you saw one roll past today, you'd hear echoes of Bruce Willis muttering, "Zed's dead, baby," under the rumble. That's the power of cinema tied to machinery. And here's the kicker, Tarantino knew bikes like this don't just fade. They linger, they echo, they hold cult status. Which brings us to another motorcycle from another film that didn't just ride into battle but rode into memory. Taking the throne at last, number 1, Triumph Speed, Triple Mission Impossible 2. By the year 2000, Tom Cruise had already redefined action movies with the first Mission Impossible. But Mission Impossible 2 didn't just want to raise the stakes. It wanted to push action into the stratosphere. And to do that, John Woo put Cruise on a motorcycle that was every bit as insane as the stunts he performed. The Triumph Speed Triple. This wasn't a background bike. This was front and center, a co-star in the final act. Picture it. Cruise's Ethan Hunt, hair flying, leather jacket unzipped, wrestling his black speed triple in a ballet of violence. Opposite him, Doug Ray Scott's villain roared on a matching Triumph Daytona. What followed wasn't just a chase, it was one of the most ridiculously entertaining motorcycle duels ever filmed. The Speed Triple itself was the perfect choice. Born in the mid-90s, Triumph had rebuilt itself after collapse. and the Speed Triple became its rebel child. With its Street Fighter stance, its naked aggression style, and that snarling triple-cylinder engine pumping out over 100 horsepower, it was built to look mean and feel dangerous. This wasn't a gentleman's cafe bike, it was a brawler, and in Wu's slow-motion lens, it looked like a weapon forged for cinema. The chase pushed reality past the breaking point. The bikes leapt, skidded, collided, even spun through the air before ending in a hand-to-hand fistfight. It was wild, over the top, almost cartoonish, and yet unforgettable. Because at the heart of it, the Triumph roared. The machine was the anchor of the madness. Price-wise, a brand new Speed Triple in 2000 cost around $9,000. Today, used ones from that era can be found for $4,000 to $5,000, while modern versions climb much higher. But no matter the year, every Speed Triple carries a whiff of Ethan Hunt's impossible swagger. And that's the genius. A motorcycle can be a tool, a motorcycle can be a toy, but on screen in the right moment, it becomes legend. And Triumph's Speed Triple, thanks to Cruise, became exactly that. Before you go, don't miss the next video, because if you thought today's list was wild, what's coming next will blow your mind. And hey, if you love this ride through movie history, smash that like button, drop a comment with your favorite on-screen motorcycle moment, and make sure to subscribe so you never miss any videos.